This is a typical traveler that is used within the facility. This one is particularly for rack and spray. As you can see, there are a few stickers on this particular traveler. Just take it out so you can see. Sorry about that. We'll take out all the parts and pieces of this particular traveler. You will see there are a couple of stickers. You'll see the green sticker that says QC approval. Typically, if we get orders that are above 500 pounds in weight, as you can see right here, this is an 800 pound job. If we get orders that are greater than 500 and have a zinc plating applied to the part, as you can see here, we need to perform a small sample to determine if we can get the necessary coverage from our coating. So we did this for this particular order. We coated 3 parts to the customer specifications and found that we were able to get the adequate coverage. Now that that is complete, we can move the order into regular production, which is why we have a QC approval signed and initialed. So if you look at the traveler, every traveler has a job number. This job represents an order from a specific purchase order and specific customer. If you move over here to the left, you'll see that there is a part number right here, and then right below it is the part description. The first thing we need to do is to verify that we have the correct part for the job that is listed. So typically what we do is we find the part, and we use the blue gauge it tool to determine if it is the correct part. Once we have determined that we have the right parts with the right traveler, which is this particular job number 250897, then we can continue with the next steps. As we look further down to the traveler, we'll see the very first job notes section, which is right here, and we know that we need RIE 1424 blue coating. And so we're going to move down to the traveler. As you can see, there's many different steps to the traveler, and it does continue on to the other side. So we just need to make sure that we read the traveler before we begin with any of the steps. If we don't read the traveler, we're not going to understand what coatings to apply or how to do it. If you look at the very first notes section, you'll see there have been some revisions to this particular process that we use. There's been a couple of things updated, and right here lists the different updates to this particular process. It's very important to note the dates when the updates occurred. If it's recent, then you need to go find the changes and make sure that you understand them. The very first part for a racking job is to rack out the parts, which says racking. So you come over and you follow the instructions. For this particular routing step, it says rack parts so heads are touching and threads are pointing away from each other. So now that would mean we would have to place the heads, the parts, kind of like this on the particular rack so that we could get the right coverage when the spray occurs. So the next step, you just keep following each step in order as you go. And so the next step says to find your blue coating. And then we're going to use steel masking fixtures to mask heads of bolts prior to spraying. So we want to make sure that we have the right masking material and we mask the correct part of this particular piece. After the masking is complete, we go to the sprayback routing, in which we have information about the actual coating itself. And it also gives you very specific information about which coating to use, what reducer to use, what the viscosity should be, and what the cure temp should be. It's very important that all instructions are followed for each step. You want to make sure that you read the entire step before you continue. And then we move on to the next one. This gives you instructions on how to bake. It gives you the temperature that you need to set the oven. And then it also tells you what your part temperature should be, as well as a time frame. And it also will give you hints about what the customer requires. Like for this particular step, a little overspray is allowed on the heads of the parts. And once that particular routing is complete and you allow the parts to dry, you come to the inspection routing. And this is where all of the different checks are performed before we ship the product to the customer. It's very important that we understand all of these different checks and how they are completed and what results that we need to have. Pay attention to any kind of special notes that you see in each routing. Each note has been put there to help you understand and to better coat that part. Once the inspections have been completed, you see there is a hand box and a packaging routing. So you want to make sure these instructions are followed. These parts should be layered in foam and they should be hand counted to verify quantity. So it's very important that if the Traveler says to layer in foam, that we actually use foam and not any other material. This is to keep the parts from becoming damaged during transit and to keep them meeting the customer's requirements. The packaging step just tells you which boxes to use and if you need a Gaylord. As you complete each step, you would have to need to initial and date each particular step to indicate that each step has been completed. There is another part to the Traveler, and this is what we call the Traveler back. On this particular Traveler, you're going to have to take some measurements, and the measurements that you take from here will be applied or recorded here. So you have to verify which cart you're going to use. Each cart should have a number on it, and so that you can keep track of that cart. So you want to record the cart number. You want to get the viscosity of your coating and you record it here. You identify which spray gun, or which sprayer is going to actually do the spraying. You want to know what the temp of the first coat is, and then the second temp, and then the second coat viscosity, who the sprayer is, the second coat temp, and then the second coat temp. So each time you complete any of these particular routings over here that requires a record of what you do, you would record it on this sheet right here. And when you are complete, when everything has been signed off and initialed and dated, then you can send this over to the shipping area for shipment. You can also verify some of the Travelers will have a copy of a purchase order. You can also verify too, if you're not sure if you have the right parts, if the PO is correct. So you would just locate the purchase order number on the PO and then find the purchase order number on the Traveler. If they match, then you're pretty certain that you've got the right PO with the right Traveler, and if your part description matches the actual part that you have, then you know you've got the right parts. It's very important to verify that you have the right parts, the right traveler, and before you start. And that will eliminate a lot of headaches and rework down the line. One thing I forgot to mention, the first number that you see before the part description is called a process number. This number indicates a specific process that the customer has requested. Process 697 is for RIE 1424 blue. So anytime someone requests this particular process, this is what we will assign to that particular part.